it's Monica. Welcome back to my podcast, Let's Make Some Noise, where I dive into nonprofit strategy, branding, and the donor experience. This week, we're talking about sound bites. What are sound bites, and why does your nonprofit need one or some? In a historical context, sound bites date back to the early dark ages of television, back in the days where there just were three networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS. And to boot, those networks weren't on 24 hours a day. They went off the air at a certain time of the evening. So they had very limited news coverage. It was an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. And if they interviewed someone or featured someone on their segment, they needed a very, very short segment from that interviewee or from that subject. And that was the soundbite. And people would work to craft these messages that would reflect the core message, what they were trying to bring about. There's a great video, and I'll put a link below, of Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about his early days as director at the Museum of Natural History, and how he was interviewed to talk about the discovery of a new planet at a different solar system, a different sun. And he had gone into very complex detail about gravity and science and how they knew this was a planet. And when he ran home to watch the news program, all the news featured was him doing a little hula hoop maneuver that demonstrated the planet rotating around that star. So he was quite disappointed, and he decided to become a master of the soundbite. So that is what if you are not crafting messages that are short and digestible, you run the risk of having the media or your partners, donors, constituents scanning over your message, perhaps landing on the wrong thing and not understanding. So you want to really be careful to kind of figure out what your core messages are for your core programs, and be sure to emphasize that throughout the branding, throughout the marketing of those programs. There are all kinds of examples of famous sound bites throughout history. A classic one is George H.W. Bush, "Read my lips, no new taxes." That was a very strategically placed soundbite because his team knew that what that key message was going to be repeated over and over. And, job well done. That got to be kind of that banner statement for Bush. And if you follow Olympics, when the U.S. hockey team, Miracle on Ice, Al Michaels was reporting and was yelling, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. And then when the U.S. hockey team scored the final goal within the last 2 seconds of the game, that has also become a soundbite that has become really famous throughout the ages. So today, sound bites continue to be very useful because you want to create a short, key, pithy message that captures the essence of what you're trying to tell people. It's also a reason why using a lot of headlines in your text is also important, because people are scanners. They want to know quickly if this is a piece or an article or content worth reading. So they may come back to it, but they're going to scan first. And that's why putting a soundbite at the top of your key messaging really helps people determine what it is that they're going to be reading about. The media, despite, the many, many more forms of media, the webinars and podcasts and website content and et cetera, the media is incredibly busy. And now the limited airtime has been replaced by just having to churn out volumes and volumes of content every day, with some journalists having to write 10, 15 articles a day. So journalists do not have time to read through pages and pages of your website to try to guess at your key message. So the more you have core messages packaged in a nice little soundbite, the easier it is for the media to also report on you, because they're able to distill that very quickly without having to do a lot of work. Sometimes sound bites can be misinterpreted. We see that happening frequently. That often happens with political commentary on both sides, both parties, both left-leaning and right-leaning media sites will sort of edit text that then becomes a little bit inaccurate because they've edited out the sound bite, which is yet another reason why you want to kind of keep your messaging tight, because there is less opportunity for journalists or for other people to interpret it in multiple ways. Humans are incredibly busy. I mean, the digital era has shortened our attention span because there's just so much more content to digest. There's social media, text messaging, emails, educational content. The list goes on and on. Podcasts, videos, and there's so many ways to consume content. So people are looking to kind of distill things down into shorter messages. So by creating sound bites and putting that out there, it helps people figure out what you stand for, and if that's something that kind of aligns with their interests. Are you interesting? Basically is what they are looking for. You can see this. I just put up a graphic from Google Trends of the growth in the term TLDR, too long, didn't read. If you're not familiar with, a lot of media sites are now putting TLDRs at the end of their content, so that if people don't want to read, 750, 1,500 words, at the end there's a TLDR. You can see here on the Google graph that before 2016, that expression didn't exist. And now you see it steadily climbing and climbing as more people become familiar with it, and more people are looking for the TLDR. They want to know just the facts, man, just the nutshell. So if you're an organization, you've got detailed mission statement, core values, pillars, alignment, whatever your messaging is, and it's very long, 10, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, that's okay. You can keep that as is, but make sure that you're encapsulating the high points so that those people who are scanners aren't just completely avoiding your messaging altogether, that they understand, this is what I need to know. This is why I should support you. This is why I should partner with you. This is why I should attend this program. And giving people those little snippets of information that help them make a decision. It will help you convert more people from browsers into subscribers, into donors, into partners. So what do I mean by soundbite? Well, I mean a lot of things, and we'll talk about some of them in a few minutes, but you should have a soundbite for your overall organization, your brand statement. And, just do it for Nike, right? If that's that message that everybody knows and associates with you. Just one example of a soundbite is the organization Charity Water. Their soundbite, their brand statement, their message is clean water changes everything. So what's great about having the soundbite, this brand statement, is that not only does it connect with your audience in an emotional way, right? Everyone gets the importance of clean water. But if someone has forgotten the name of your organization, and there's 6 or 7 other organizations competing with you, the brand statement is often easier to remember than the organization name. So if you have created your marketing and your SEO correctly, when people search clean water changes everything, they'll find the site even if they can't remember the name of it. So it's another way for people to reinforce your mission, but to have people remember you and stay top of mind with them. All right. So the next question is, how do you build a soundbite? Well, the first thing you have to do is start with your audience. Who's your audience? Who are all your audience segments? Whether that's donors, partners, volunteers, members. If you're an arts organization, maybe it's, theater patrons or museum attendees, and you pick every single potential audience member you have, and you build sound bites for every action you want them to take. So if you have a visitor and you want them to book a tour, that's one sound bite. If you have visitors and you want them to book an event, a group party, that's a different sound bite. And you'll still have the longer messaging on the website, but creating that soundbite of, oh, you should book my museum because XYZ, and then having that be the consistent messaging, it helps clarify for your audience what you stand for. And it also helps create some consistent messaging among your team, your board, your staff, your volunteers, your partners, if they want to talk about your organization. So it has dual benefits. It helps the audience understand what you stand for in each context, and it also helps it helps amplify your message as other people use that soundbite to talk about you. I have a tool, put the link below in my description. It's called an audience value matrix, and it does exactly that. It asks you to pick every single audience member you might be targeting, from children to media to donors. What are the core things they are looking for out of your organization? What are the core calls to action you're going to have with them? Donate now, buy now, subscribe now, whatever those messages are, book an event, and then it asks you to consider the soundbite for each of those actions. And so that may not come naturally, but as you start to kind of build this consistent messaging across your platform, you're going to become better known for who you are and what you're accomplishing with your mission. Another benefit of the audience value matrix is that it asks you to consider your programs and your activities from the perspective of the audience you're targeting. What's the value to them? So often we go to a website, it says donate now, subscribe now, and there's one button, but no reason why we should do that. And there are many causes asking us to donate. There are many organizations asking us to subscribe. If you don't tell people what they're going to get for their donation, what they're going to get for their subscription, what the newsletter is going to contain, it makes it very much harder for you to get that subscription. People are far less likely now to just subscribe or to just donate because they've always done it. They need a reason, they need value, they need something that is going to either make them feel appreciated, it's going to make them feel educated. So again, using the audience value matrix, using the sound bites to determine what your audience needs and what they value so that you can then incorporate that into your messaging. All right, we're kind of halfway through the episode. If you're interested in learning more about strategic planning and strategic messaging for your nonprofit, visit my website, monicapoling.com, for more articles, links to more YouTube, and more resources. And also feel free to subscribe to this channel and like this video to get more updates. All right, here's the hard truth. We're going to play hardball here. That you know this, as a nonprofit organization, as nonprofit leadership or employees, you've seen that engagement is down, donations are down. The individual giving is at its lowest rate in 30 years, and that has been backed up by numerous media articles, surveys. That is not news any longer. That is reality. Meanwhile, however, even though donations are down, the largest source of income and revenue for nonprofits still comes from individual donors. So we need to fix that disconnect. And across the nonprofit industry, 64% of all funding comes from individual contributions, and that is equivalent to $319 billion. So we can't just say, oh, well, donations are down. We need to figure out why, and we need to figure out messaging that targets the new way that our individual contributors are consuming information so that we can help them, give them an easier path to give us money. In 2022, foundations made up 21% of all giving, and that was to the tune of $105 billion. So still a healthy number, but 1/3 of what the individual contributions made up. And in either case, the people who are giving money from the foundations are still individuals. So they are also still consuming information differently. So in either case, whether you're targeting individual contributors or whether you're targeting foundations, you want to make the messaging easier. You want to give people the reasons, give them the sound bites, give them the information they are looking for to tell them why supporting you is in their best interest, why it offers value to them. Another factoid that's probably of interest is that individual donations still skew much older, and the average contributor at the individual level the average age is about 64 years old. So the decline in individual giving has in part been attributed to less giving among younger audiences. That may be the case. I think that also there's a lot of reasons why individual giving is down. I think we as nonprofits haven't necessarily kept up with messaging. We haven't, there's a lot of things competing for the money of people. I believe that a lot more organizations now, corporate entities, are partnering with nonprofits. So people who are younger maybe feel like they're already supporting the nonprofit by buying from the organizations that support the nonprofits. So I think there's a lot of reasons why donations are down, but to help combat that, we need to create messaging that aligns with what our contributors want, what they're looking for, what makes them feel good, educated, benefited in some way by giving that money. But So simply speaking, the soundbite just helps the donation process. It gives your contributors, your members, however you get your individual donations, it gives them a reason. This is why. So the donate now button, it just isn't enough anymore. It needs to be, the donate now button assumes people have read all the text throughout your website and get it. But you need to give a direct message. Donate now because this supports our education fund. Donate now because this buys blankets for animals in need. Donate now because your donation supports 5 wells per community. Whatever the reason, whatever the donations do, you need to make it clear to people why they're donating and why it matters. And then you also need to make it easy for people to donate, and you have to kind of check your user experience. The soundbite is not enough, but it's definitely a good start. You're not going to be competitive if you're relying on only saying donate now or subscribe now. Donors want to know. They want to know where their money is going. They want to know how it's going to get spent. They want to know directly how they are directly affecting change. It has the same thing like buying a star. I want to know that star up there among the many millions is my star. And that is the same. We want that same impact when we give back. We want to, adopt an animal. We want to adopt a habitat. We want the many benefits of what your larger sponsors and donors want. We want our names on bricks, whatever it is. So they want to know, and they want transparency of where the money is going so that they don't feel that lack of trust that is happening now with a lot of nonprofits. And I'm not suggesting nonprofits are not trustworthy. I just think that overwork, underpaid, too many resources at play, but the annual reports and the messaging on the website isn't doing enough to build that trust. And again, here's the messaging. Here you can see the annual report that shows you exactly where all the contributions and memberships and individual donations go. Again, Charity Water does a great job. They have a transparency model that shows you where all the contributions are going. So it's a great website to check out for that. So your sound bites are your calls to action. That's the new call to action. Donate now to do this. Donate now to save lives. Donate now to build careers. Donate now to support college students. But you need to be very clear about that action, and that is going to motivate more people because they're going to understand what is happening after the money comes to you as a nonprofit organization. Then when you've crafted your sound bites across all your donation channels, across all your actions, then you want to build branding that reflects that message consistently across everything you do. You want it to be on your website. You want it to be on your social media channels. You want it to be on your press releases. You want to be on any message, annual report, any message that you send out, reports. You want that donate now because message to go out consistently, the same message over and over. You could even put it on your social media banners, donate now for education, hashtag. But you want to make sure that message is consistent because then it's first of all, the consistency builds trust. And secondly, the consistency helps build a memory recognition for your brand and its purpose. It's not just, I do this and I have advocacy and I have this and I do policy and I do some support and there's some education and some membership. Too much, too not clear. I don't know. What is my donation going to do? And it's all right if you have multiple donation channels. You might have an education fund. You might have, many universities do that, right? There might be the annual fund, the capital fund, the, AARP has it. It seems like every time I open my email, I have a new donate now message from AARP. That's okay. You don't only need to have one message, but each donate now needs a reason so that people are like, oh yeah, I wanted to donate to the education fund, or I wanted to donate to the support STEM research fund, whatever that is. But you want to make sure that when you have a message and it's aligned on your website with a donate button, that money is actually going to where you say it's going to go, because that again will help you build trust. And then finally, as I mentioned, you got to get your donate now, whatever your soundbite is, you want to build a little hashtag around that soundbite. Clean water saves lives. Arts are good for the economy, and whatever that is, and that your hashtag may be bigger than your donate now, but again, the hashtag re-emphasizes what the donations are going to do. And it also re-emphasizes the larger mission. So you want to make sure everything's a little bit aligned with your brand, but creating that branding messaging around your calls to action, your sound bites is, that's essentially what branding is, right? Building your brand messaging, building the pillar messaging, and then building the brand support, the consistency, and the trust around that messaging. All right, that's it for today's episode on sound bites. And to recap, a great, strong soundbite can be the difference between being remembered and being forgotten. But it also can motivate action. It can get people to understand what you're doing and get on board with it, and to motivate them to take that next step, even if it's just subscribing to your newsletter, which can then be a conduit to future donations. The soundbite, it really is just you recognizing that people's attention spans are changing, and you are providing an extra step to get your customers, your audience, your donators, your partners, your members. You're providing that extra step for them to tell them the value of their support to your organization, and helping them get to that button and click that button. And again, if you have multiple actions, calls to action, you'll have multiple sound bites, but you want to tell people why they need to do that click, why they need to do that subscribe, why they need to hit the donate button, and keep a sound bite for each of the messages that you are shooting out to the public. And then finally, integrating that sound bite, that expanded call to action, everywhere in all your messaging, in your social media posts, in your press releases, in your marketing materials, in your annual report, whatever documentation, whatever marketing you're producing, have a sound bite. It doesn't always have to be the same one, but you want to keep some consistency going. So if you have one master donation fund, maybe that's it. And then you have your master brand message. Arts are good for the economy. Water changes everything. But being consistent and using it across all your messaging, so you build that brand recognition, which in turn builds trust among the consumers. All right. If you like this episode, please click like below. You can also head to my website, monicapoling.com, where I offer all kinds of free resources for nonprofits, including the audience value matrix that I mentioned earlier. So I will see you next time.